Welcome to Convergence Healing with Peter Bedard, where we empower you to heal your pain on every level of your being, body, mind, spirit. Our show is about sharing solutions for creating the life you want. We invite you to stand up and choose a life of health, happiness, and joy. And we're here to show you how. This is Convergence Healing.
All right. Hello, my people, my people. We are back. We have another wonderful show here on the Convergence Healing Podcast with Peter Bedard. And that's me, Peter Bedard. I like saying my name. I used to hate my name at one time, but it's good now. Peter Bedard. Yeah. So here we are. I have a fantastic guest, somebody I've actually known for quite a few years now and who I've long admired. And, you guys all know that I always start my show by getting a quote out there, and I meditate on my guest, and I just take some time to sort of feel them, their energy, how I feel about them, all that type of stuff, and who I perceive them to be. And then I look for quotes, because quotes have always inspired me in life. So I found a quote that was from, I never say his name right, Paulo Coelho? Coelho. Something. Yeah, I'm sorry, Paulo. But there's a very famous book that he wrote called The Alchemist. And Paulo says, all right, and this reminds me of you, Jackie. Okay, Paulo says, "This is why alchemy exists," the boy said, "so that everyone will search for his treasure, find it, and then want to be better than he was in his former life. Lead will play its role until the world has no further need for lead. And then lead will have to turn itself into gold." That's what alchemists do. They show that when we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. Isn't that a great quote?
Love that.
And that's how I perceive you.
Thank you so
You
much,
are
Peter.
you are an entertainment industry alchemist.
Thank you. Thank you so much as I sit here sipping on your beauty potion tea.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Just say it.
It's a
I'm
great
sipping on that
setup.
tea, right?
It's a great
You like
setup.
That? All right, good.
I love that. I love the alchemy. I love that was a beautiful quote. Actually, I didn't know that he did that, but the book is so beautiful, Alchemist.
It's a beautiful book, yeah.
Yeah, and I just feel like, there's so many layers happening right now in 2017, and I can't tell you, I don't remember a year quite like this. And from a content perspective, because essentially in the entertainment industry, that's what I do is I shuttle content. The narrative has been pretty locked down this year. It's been really hard to spring open new content conversations. It's been really, it's like 9 pages deep on one subject, one personality this past year. So it's been a very challenging year. But from it, I'm witnessing a disruption of entirely different conversations that have been buried and needed to come up.
Oh, gosh, yes.
On a collective level.
So before we go a little deeper, I just want everybody to know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the amazing, beautiful Jacquie Jordan, who is a TV producer, media expert, and publisher. And Jacquie owns a media company called TV Guestpert. She has been a showrunner. She has everything, like I said, publisher, executive consultant, all kinds of stuff. So that's who we're talking to. So now that people know who you are.
Thank you for the formalities in the introduction.
Well, hey, I think it's important. Like, who's this wonderful woman I'm talking to? Right?
You.
I want everybody listening to know. Jacquie did work with you've been through Variety, right? Hollywood
I
Reporter.
did. I was the showrunner for Sunday Morning Shootout from 2000. Right. I did the first 100 episodes with that with Peter Bart, who was overseeing Variety, and Peter Guber, who was a former chairman of Sony, now chairman, Mandalay, and now owns the Houston team that just won the basketball championship. But I come
those
through
guys.
That thing. You can tell I'm a sports person as I sip the beauty potion. And I also did, I produced for Montel, Maury Povich, Geraldo. I did Geraldo during the O.J. Simpson days, and I've had this really this amazing trajectory in my career where I'm kind of like put at these places at like the right time, but not knowing in the moment that it's going to be significant at some other point in my timeline.
Right.
So I've done that, but I've also done Wall Street Journal TV and CNBC, and my Emmy nominations are from Donnie and Marie, and I've had TV Guestpert, which is I've kind of inverted what I did professionally prior to that when I was a showrunner for experts and authors and business owners and helping them get their media platform built, recognized, to grow their core business is what we do at TV Guestpert and TV Guestpert Publishing. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank
So
you.
were going to say something before
Well,
I
we were
terribly
talking about
interrupted
we
you.
were talking about the narrative because like what I do is like now I've always done it. I just do it in different formations, but I currently I put experts into or business owners into the media, and I have to create a narrative around that, and I have to put it in an outlet or a place that will accept the narrative. Essentially, is what I do. And it's just been a very challenging year, but the great news of it for overall is that it's a disruptive year of conversation. So things that have been buried on a collective level that we haven't really addressed, the elephant in the room that we all together are being complicit on is now popping open. So in that regard, it's been really great, but it's not been a typical year in terms of placing content in the media in the way that we used to, and I'm seeing that across the board. But what I also do for a living in this regard is like I aggregate opportunity for my clients and I mitigate rejection for people. So if I understand what a client's vision is, then I can take the action steps and collaborate with the client to create the opportunity or the window of opening to kind of push them through for it. So, and then in my book, Heartfelt Marketing, Allowing the Universe to Be Your Business Partner, I talk about like, when we go along that path, sometimes the roadblocks or the stumbling blocks that come up within people around the opportunities. And it's something that I always have to recognize in myself when I'm trying to push myself forward as well. And, in terms of the original quote you brought up, we're talking about, how do we live the highest expression of ourselves in the world, and that's always evolving. And then we're bringing up against a collective narrative, which has kind of got its own thing going. And what is amazing about you, Peter, because I've known you for quite a long time, is there's people like you out there who are pushing a narrative a good 10 years ahead of its time. You're path cutting a conversation that people aren't ready to have.
Right.
Now you're enjoying the fruits of Tipping Point.
Right.
But you've been at this conversation for a long time. I mean, you led the conversation in alternative healing when it was not that I ever thought this, but when it was a freak show. It was circus antics. And you stayed true to it. You stayed on it. You never gave up. Doing it, you kept the conversation really honest. You aggregated your own resources and contacts, and here we are 10 years later. As my mother says to me, Jackie, my mother says to me, this is the way my mother describes me, but she says, Jackie, whatever you're into ends up on Dr. Oz like 5 years later. And that's like how I somehow become like legitimate.
Absolutely.
But know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly.
What I'm talking about.
Well, we tried to get a Dr. Oz type of show out there before Dr. Oz even was out there. And that was like 3-4 years before. So
Yeah, so you've been path cutting the conversations, and there needs to be a certain amount. What I've learned or witnessed in my experience of doing this is there needs to be a certain amount of people like yourself that take the conversation and push it forward until it hits the critical tipping point.
Yep.
And there's a lot of us that do that, but it's sometimes it's not rewarding in the moment.
Right.
The payoff, it's definitely delayed gratification when it comes to payoff.
Hey, the payoff is that people are finally having these conversations. So I'm so grateful for that. When I started, my background has a lot of the hypnosis type of work in it. And when I started doing that 15-something years ago, there was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of, P, you're crazy, and that doesn't work. And people would constantly be calling me, basically saying, well, does it really work? That was always the first question. No, I just do something that I don't believe in and never will help anybody.
Can you prove it to me first?
but
and then I'll consider booking you.
Exactly.
Hiring you.
Yeah, exactly. I like booking, that works. But that was kind of the approach that I always got, or that I was controlling people or mind controlling or doing something of that sort. Right? I had people saying it was evil and wrong and how could I do that type of stuff. And now the last, say, 3 years, that's not even in people's
Not
that
at all.
thinking isn't even in people's awareness.
Is that amazing though?
It's not at all. It's
Yeah.
been I think that the hypnosis world has become completely mainstream.
Absolutely, because at this point, at
Yeah.
least the way I experience it, is there's an understanding that the subconscious mind
Right.
does have a part in
just a little.
little bit,
Yeah.
exactly, and
Right.
a lot of things.
Yeah. I actually get now Western medical doctors referring to me.
I believe that.
And I've even had psychiatrists
Mm.
who are referring to me.
Oh, what a
Which is
beautiful compliment.
pretty
Oh, that's a
interesting
that's
because
a
their
change.
world is very, very
That's
about
an
a single
alchemical
solution.
change.
That is an alchemical
That
change.
is
yeah.
absolutely an alchemical
Yeah,
change.
that's some gold right there.
Yeah, that is. The lead no longer works.
Right. So it turns itself into gold. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some great stuff.
Yeah. So I think we are at a really important time, and I think it's taken this darkness, let's say,
Yep.
this shadow that's being exposed. It's taken this to sort of, I think we're at a tipping point.
Pushing conversations forward. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that one thing that you really reframed for me was your idea of that I could get myself out there,
Yes.
right? With your first book,
Yes.
right? How to Get on TV,
Yes.
right? And then with your second book, The Heartfelt Marketing, that marketing used to feel like something icky. to
Didn't
me.
it? Yeah, me too.
Oh,
It used to
it
be
was just-
too.
Ugh, it was awful. It felt
yeah.
like something I
Want to take
I-
a shower after you do. Like, you do this thing,
Exactly.
you go
It
try
just
to sell yourself. You want to go take a shower. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, as if talking about yourself and what you do and the goodness you bring in the world was a bad thing.
I know.
Ugh.
Look at that overlay. Look at
Yeah.
that overlay. But it did. It used it. Yeah, and now at least we embrace it as a service.
Right.
You know, we know that this is our highest expression, and now we need to market ourselves
Right.
so that more people can benefit
Yep.
from the accumulated knowledge that we've acquired.
Absolutely. You know, I used to think, I used to have that belief that came into, talking about yourself was so bad.
Yeah.
Right. And I grew up in California, but I grew up in an area where that was discouraged
Yep.
if you talked about your job or what you did or, that type of
It
stuff.
was not part of polite society.
Not part of polite society.
Yes.
But then I moved to LA, and it was
There's
the
contrast.
opposite extreme. It was
Hi,
like,
how
all-
are you?
what
Nice
do
to
you
meet you. What do
do?
you do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, which I hated because it
How
was
much do
just
you make?
the
What kind of car do you drive?
Oh God, did that bug the crap out of me? Because it was like this one-upmanship.
Yes.
It wasn't because people were really interested in what you do. It was they were interested in how much money you made and how they perceived you to be successful. or not.
And is this conversation worth going any further? Because you
Right.
might be a connection that I need to have that's going to help me
Yeah.
with my career. Yes.
Black fish. Yeah. Hairball.
Another reason to take a shower.
Yeah. And that I started to talk about myself differently because of what I heard from you. And I've even said to my client that when my clients will come up with this issue, and I will say to them, I said, if you called me and the first time we had any kind of connection, which is normally over the phone, and I said, you called me and I said, I'm kind of good at what I do. I'm okay. Would you want to come see me?
No.
No, not at all. I'm like, I personally would say next.
Experiment?
Yeah.
No, it's not called a
right?
client. I would be called an experiment.
Exactly. But if you called me and asked me about my work and I said, I'm really good at what I do. I don't know what your results are going to be.
Sure.
But I'm really good at what I do. I consult with with Stanford University. I have my degrees and my certificates, and I have all that type of stuff. I'm a published author,
Yep.
all that type of stuff. And talking about that now no longer feels
so uncomfortable.
smarmy.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel uncomfortable at all.
And
It's
I
just
think part of that
facts.
is we do have to grow into it.
Yeah.
Like I think, because now, not to age myself, but 20 something years of doing this, it's like I am pretty certain at this point,
Right.
like I'm not trying to figure out the mechanics of how I need to position it or put it out there. Like I'm like, yeah, I know what I know.
Right.
And you're not going to tell me otherwise, so there's something earned about that
Right.
happens at a certain point in life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the fact that we're coming into that, or we
Yeah.
are in that
Owning
place, is
that.
super important. And to be able to talk about yourself from a place of loving kindness,
Yes.
like the picture on your book is the hands over the heart. I love that. That's, to actually present yourself to the world in a way of marketing
And
that comes from that love.
And it's so funny because we're seeing this just come up collectively. But I know that when I was originally in the younger and in the workforce, I definitely did the alpha male match, where it was like, doing it the man's way.
Right. And I love that you're bringing that up because
Yeah.
I really want to know how you made that shift.
It's really interesting. I have a lot more context to the way I shifted, not knowing that I was shifting when I was going through it. So I have a lot more context to it now. But when I came up through the talk shows, and was working young and hungry in New York City in the 90s, it was definite. And I definitely wore the striped shirts that the men were wearing. Like even the attire was much more of, masculine, right out of the 80s working women.
Annie Hall.
Yes, it was right out of that,
Right.
except we might have had like puffy sleeves or something like that, but puffy shoulders, or shoulder pads. But like other than that, it was even the wardrobe was masculine, and it was competitive, and it was forceful, and it was hungry, and it was aggressive. And it worked until it doesn't work. And I got to tell you, it doesn't work in my dating life. So it's just like, that's the one place that definitely doesn't work.
Absolutely not.
I was like, how can I be so good in this area of my life and not so good in this area of my life? But I had to work on that. And it's funny because my last show that I was a showrunner for outside of my company was Sunday Morning Shootout, which is an industry talk show. And it's in the news a lot right now because of all the other entertainment stuff going on. And it's funny, I left to start my own business. And I left at a time where a lot of my colleagues weren't starting their own business. And I thought I'd get a lot of support right away for doing that. And a lot of people were like, oh, she's got cooties. Like, there was not a lot of initial support. It was like, whoa, I'm going to stand back from this. Because if this ship sinks, I'm not going to be. So I ended up having, where I thought I would go and utilize my connections, I actually had to go out and create new connections. And it was really character building for me. But I also got to soften professionally in places that were just so necessary for just my soul and how I conducted business. And really, for me, I really embraced the idea of grounding the spiritual into the material, like what that feels like, what that looks like as a business, and as a business as a whole, we do philanthropy for animals. That's what we also have in common because you do that as well. And just, getting into a more receptive space and not feeling you're not powerful, not feeling that having to dominate is not powerful. And so even with heartfelt marketing, because I wrote the book in 2011, when I read it now, I can see that I was still working out some of those places and spaces inside of myself of like, how do you sell? How do you market yourself? How do you put yourself out there in a very masculine world, masculine energy, a masculine way of doing, being, and doing and giving, and still making a living,
Right.
I had to really figure those places and spaces out inside myself. And we're so collectively now, as I sit back and watch it, I'm like, oh, so I did that on a personal level, and now I'm watching it happen and break up on a collective level. So I'm kind of getting the validation of my own journey on a big picture level 10 years later.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's what all that was about, because it wasn't for me, it wasn't in the highest resonant of my best self to be in those type of environments.
Right.
But I got to see a lot, I got to witness a lot, and I did a lot of no thank you, no thank you, no thank you, I don't want that, I don't want to be a part of that. But what I was able to do with it at that time was create something for myself and still stay within the core industry, which I'm really great, glad that I've done, and been able to navigate it successfully and help, and do what we just talked about, which is be of service to other people through the business. And where the money's concerned, I always, say, it's about bringing in a harmonious, money should be a harmonious exchange.
I agree.
For time and places. So, and value for work. So. Yeah.
That's awesome. We're going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to come back. And while we go to our break, I want everybody in the audience to think about how they need to bring more value into their lives.
That's awesome.
How they need to value themselves and how you can actually do that. So on that note, we'll be
I'm
right
going to drink
back.
some more beauty potion.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're interested, check out convergencehealingteas.com. You can try all these yummy, delicious teas that are actually crafted in my home kitchen to help you feel better. We have a Sleep Well blend, a No More Anxiety blend, and all of those ingredients in there are designed to help you feel better through the traditional qualities that Mother Nature has to offer. Check it out. All right, boom, chakalaka, my people, we are back. And I have the beautiful, amazing, and talented Jacquie Jordan with me. And Jacquie is a media expert and a wonderful friend. And Jacquie, one of the reasons why I wanted her on the show is because Jacquie is an example to me of how to bring your true self. And, you know, you guys know that I'm a big advocate for women in female business and how to sort of not be a man in a man's world and not try to be a woman in a man's world, but to be a woman in the world. And Jacquie is somebody that I see is doing that.
Thank you.
She's a very powerful source, and she is an amazing lady.
Thank you.
And I look at her as someone who's walking their talk, but who is creating a shift. She's part of this shift of women learning how to be women in the world and not trying to be men.
Thank you.
And I don't mean that because by wearing dresses. I don't mean that at all.
Or that
I mean
men are bad.
Or that is bad, but by embodying their true self and what I like to call a goddess.
Thank you.
Because the goddess is strong and feminine and powerful and soft and can take life and give life. And the goddess is beautiful and terrible. And that is what we need to bring back into life because we've gone too far, too far into this masculine paradigm.
Yeah.
And it's time to bring in the goddess.
Thank you.
And so I see you doing that as an embodiment of that in the world.
So beautiful.
Now, you stepped out of what we talked about before our break, right? You stepped out of this world
10 years ago.
of dominating. I know writers' rooms.
Yeah.
I don't think you were exactly in writers' rooms, right?
But I come from unscripted television,
Right.
so or reality television, which is all scripted anyway. But it separates that, and it separates out actors from unpaid talent. Is really what it separates out. But yes, I mean, so I've been in all the rooms, you know, and the behavior is what the behavior is being revealed to be. You know, like that is what it is.
Chauvinistic and
Oh, the stuff is we'll save that for another.
So we need to bring more women into these environments to correct these misguided directions.
I think what it is and what I'm seeing is actually we're going outside of the structures and creating new structures. We're not going back into the structures to fix them.
Okay.
We're going outside of the structures and creating around the structures. And I think that's what I've done with TV Guestpert, is I created a structure outside of a structure. Because we're a hybrid in terms of agency, we're hybrid in terms of publishing, we're a hybrid in terms of production company, and we're a hybrid in terms of PR. And we've got it all like this in this one place. And, I was definitely treated like you're crazy that you're doing this. And I think that, I mentor. I don't get paid to do this, but I've been doing it for the last 10 years, and it's helped me professionally. As you know, when you help others, it helps you.
Absolutely.
But I've mentored a lot of business owners and getting their businesses started, and it's helped me understand what is a hobby versus what is a business. What is you need to get a job. You're gonna, you've got responsibilities, that you have to take care of. You've got to get, you've got an 18-year commitment. That means you will be working on the other side of that, And so I've looked at money. I've looked at people's money and finances and business plans, and it's really helped me navigate and understand what that's about, and also helped me desensitize towards the fear of, asking for millions of dollars versus asking for $200. Like I got really desensitized. Like right now, it's all a number, and so it was really helpful to me. And when I left and started my business, I kind of saw ahead of time that my trajectory was ending for a couple reasons in the showrunner world. I think at the time I was probably in my mid-30s, making great money, had fancy title, had the fancy car, I had my name in parking spot on the lot, I had all that fun stuff. But I also was realizing I was competing with with my older bosses, former bosses I had, or the cheaper version of me worked for me. And it was a pyramid that was already getting the noose on that pyramid was getting tight. So when I started I started doing the AB job. I started, I had my day job and I started writing the book Get on TV at the time. And I wrote this little thing in the book about starting this website called TV Guestpert. And I remember not even wanting to commit to it in the book because I didn't really have the website built yet. And it was going to be called TV Experts, but a web guy ran off with that name and whatever. So that by default, I ended up with TV Guestpert.
Which is a gift because
Yes.
it's huge.
Isn't that
Absolutely,
funny?
yeah.
So that's how that happened. And, I run a solvent company. We don't own debt. I've bootstrapped it. I haven't gotten the Silicon Valley money that is spread around. I have gone after it and done the whole angel investor route, but I've been able to successfully keep employees, run a solvent company and be of service to others. And I really like doing it. And it's nice not being owned. And it is... I feel like it is an expression of myself, and I've been able to monetize a way that I get to be of my highest expression and gifts to others. And what I'm really good at is I'm able to see in somebody else their expressed potential, even if they haven't stepped fully into it.
Right.
And I'm able to back into the action steps that they need to do it. Now, I don't necessarily say this on a media consultation that this is how I'm looking at you.
Right.
This isn't exactly how I come at it, but this is what I'm able to see. And then I can find out from the client whether, if they can afford it, whether they have willingness, what is their level of patience to their own process. I can kind of wiggle through all of that and figure out how, as a company, we're going to be able to best serve them in those pieces, and then help them build into that expression. We do TV on camera training, but it's content development. It's really reflecting back to somebody what their narrative is,
Right.
what their story is, and how are they going to tell the story in the different places and spaces that they're going to need to step out in a larger level, on a public level. And that's really what we're doing. We box it in on-camera training, but that's really what we're doing. So this has been a vehicle for me to really meet just amazing people. And whether it's for one day or some of our clients like yourself have been with us for a decade, and we're so blessed, I've been able to help shepherd and be part of their growth and watch that growth happen. And so that's kind of the incubation of it. But as I say to people, I've got a mortgage, I've got responsibilities. I'm not a free service because a lot of people like to call and get the advice. They want the advice, and so that's just how this world still operates. So we are still fiduciary bound to expectations. But if I work with somebody that's teachable and I'm confident we can aggregate the opportunities that are going to exponentiate their potential, that I'm really clear on. Where they get in the way, which is what I talk about in Heartfelt Marketing, allowing the universe to be your business partner, is when they start to get in their own way of it. And it's the typical habits. We all have them. We know them. But it's procrastination.
Right.
It's drama. It's all of a sudden, we all do it. I'm guilty myself. I'm not
So how did
saying
you step out of your way? Because you took a huge leap.
Yeah, I did. Well, a little bit of it was forced upon me. I did the 100th episode, and I got we're going to go a new direction, which was, as I saw it, is you're not controllable, and so I jumped. I had a mortgage. I jumped, and I planted a pomegranate tree in the backyard at the time to sanction that this moment was very scary for me. And it was the ugly tree. Pomegranate trees don't have leaves on them half the year. I didn't know that at the time. They're just so ugly. And then they're just it's just a bunch of tree twigs in the ground. And then they don't bear fruit for a while. And so 10 years later, I have
That's a metaphor.
It's exactly what it was. I didn't know it, but
Wow.
I planted it, and as a prayer to I don't know where I am. Not I need to have faith. And I always say there's a difference between being attached to sometimes having faith. Sometimes this is me, but sometimes having faith means I liked the outcome I received. then there's no faith when I don't like the outcome. Then I gambled. Oh, I made a stupid mistake. Oh, that was the worst thing. I shouldn't have done that. Oh my God. There was no faith in that. So to me, it's the God of the is what it is.
Yeah.
Like it's just the God of the is what it is. I'm doing the best I can at any given moment, and I'm willing to take responsibility for all my actions.
Right.
And so anyway, the tree it's been 10 years and it's in the backyard, and the mortgage has been always paid by the business the whole entire time. And now this tree bears tremendous fruit, and in always wanting to make sure that my actions are always in the highest expression, whether they're professional or not. Part of my neighborhood got together and we collect the fruit from our backyards, because we have very fruitful backyards in California, but we let our oranges rot on our trees.
Right.
So now we collect them at a local parking lot in a church on Sundays, and we feed the homeless on Mondays with the fruit from our backyard. And this past week I dropped off like 150 pomegranates. I didn't even pick them all from the time that tree was bare, and it was just a beautiful metaphor for that entire journey that I went through in terms of starting my business at that time. But so the faith question versus the leap of faith, I think that there is you're just going to have to accept responsibility for your business, for the outcome. But from a business point of view, I'm always looking for solvency. I don't even like taking clients. When clients come to me and they're going to hire our company's services, and I kind of get a little gut feeling that what they're doing is they're going to put black or red on a credit card and see if that we can make or break their business. I don't take those on as clients. So I don't believe in debting. I believe in secure debt. I don't believe in the insecure debt,
right?
Because I think that's it's what you're doing is you're robbing from your future. So I'm really cautious of that. So when I'm working with business owners and who are transitioning from the workspace, I make sure that they have a cash prudent reserve on hand, that they know what their monthly nut is. A lot of people don't know what their monthly nut is,
right?
Or they don't know what their variable monthly nut is. Sometimes college tuition happens twice a year, or you've got orthodontics, bills coming up. So I always look at what those are and making calculated decisions towards it, and then we focus on the earnings. What is it? What are the action steps to earn?
Right.
As part of that mentorship.
Right.
Piece.
So that leap was really was thrust upon you.
It was thrust upon me, but
you could have still gone looking for another job. You could have gone to that direction, but it opened you up into the possibility.
It did, and I had been taking the action steps probably 2 years ahead of time to do it, not really knowing.
You started writing the book and doing that kind of stuff. So we're gonna take a moment, because that's that time of where spirit or inspiration or your highest self or whatever started preparing you for this moment, even before you knew that you were going to jump.
Totally. And if I knew too much, I would have
probably
shut it down.
Right. So we're going to take a quick little break, and we will be right back while we're drinking our beauty potion tea. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. If you're interested, check out convergencehealingteas.com. You can try all these yummy, delicious teas that are actually crafted in my home kitchen to help you feel better. We have a Sleep Well blend, a No More Anxiety blend, and all of those ingredients in there are designed to help you feel better through the traditional qualities that Mother Nature has to offer. Check it out. So we're sitting down with the beautiful Jacquie Jordan, and Jacquie is a amazing entrepreneur, businesswoman, and powerhouse. And Jacquie, I have this love for women, and I want women to really step out even more, right, into life. I need that in my world. I love powerful women. And you are a powerful woman, and I'm so appreciative of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to women who are looking to create change?
What women have innately that we don't give ourselves credit for is we do have a really tight, intuitive voice.
Yeah.
And the problem with us as women is we habituate ourselves into looking for external validation to validate that internal voice. And if we just stuck with the internal voice, it would be easy.
Mm-hmm.
Life would be easier. But we don't do that. We get an intuitive nudge, and then we dismiss it, or we wait for somebody else to validate it for us.
Right.
So our self-validation is often very weak. I know for myself that intuitive nudge doesn't always come at my most convenient times. It's like 4 a.m, it wakes me up, knock, or it's usually in the shower, like no pen and paper anywhere around. And it's like, you've got to call this person. I have gone. I mean, I'm really good at that. Like my life is navigated now by that intuitive voice. Not perfectly, but it is definitely navigated by that
Absolutely.
that intuitive voice. And so I think that's the biggest thing for women. We were given the heads up on that, the leg up on that, and we just don't always follow it. And then in terms of like the leap of faith.
Right, because you were getting that intuitive
I
voice
I had
was
come ahead of
leading
time.
you.
Yeah,
right.
I was seeing all the signs. I was seeing the signposts. So I call it. There's two things I call it. There's the So right now there's the conscious dismantlement, and then there's a forced upon you dismantlement. That time period for me was a forced upon me dismantlement. Speaking of alchemy, so what happens when you're forced upon in a dismantlement? You usually have to go through an inner transition. Some sort of inner spiritual alchemy, like, the question of faith, dark night of the soul, all of those wonderful, juicy, delicious, horrible places to go with inside yourself,
Yes.
where you question everything.
Yeah.
And so the structures fall apart outside of you, and then you get the alchemical indoctrination on the inside. And I believe that's what the past 10 years have been about for me since that moment. Now, what I'm doing to the best of my ability is going through the alchemical process on the inside, the growth, where all of a sudden my life now feels I've outgrown it, but going through a conscious dismantlement of it. So not waiting for the wrecking ball to get thrown in to it, like now consciously, because I don't want to recreate more of what I already have from the same place that I've already done it, because it doesn't reflect truly who I've become on the inside. So how do I create from the inside out the world that I want to live in that reflects who I've become?
Yes.
And that's very different. And
Yeah. So how are you doing that?
good question. One day at a time, for sure. And right now, I'm in a pause moment, because I am looking outside and I'm paying attention to what is changing. And we've got a whole millennial generation coming in to big influence right now.
Oh, huge.
We've got technology coming in that is like I've never seen. I mean, we've never seen technology. We answered the phone from we had a payphone. We were putting dimes in a payphone. Nobody even remembers what that is.
I know.
I mean, so we've got.
I saw a rotary phone the other day, and I swear that I was with some younger people, and I swear they had no idea what it was.
I believe it. I believe it. So, like, the technological changes, especially as it relates to my business and my industry, is like. I'm watching that influence. I'm watching where content is being owned and distributed. So I'm business-wise, I'm just kind of really like monitoring before I make any swift or prudent moves. But I'm getting the nudge. So I'm watching the signposts. I'm watching. I'm much more wide awake than I was last time. And then I'm also looking at the collective narrative. I do think where women are really, what's going to happen right now is both industry-wise, government-wise, is that, and it's been templated. We've been templating this for a while, but it's that women will. It's going. Is it Gandhi or Nelson Mandela who said that, or was it who said that the Western women are going to heal the world? It is.
Wasn't that gold on my ear?
It might have been.
I don't know.
So
We'll have to look it up.
We're stepping into that, and what technology is giving us is it's giving mothers, as mompreneurs. I mean, women are running amazing businesses out of their house where with kids on their lap, and that's okay. Like there was a time you'd have to smother your child in order to take a business phone call because you couldn't pretend you were a mother.
Yep.
That doesn't exist anymore. Those things are coming down. So women are really being able to engage now in community, in the world in a way that we haven't structurally been permitted to, allowed ourselves, so those are the advantages that are happening at this time. And so I'm navigating for myself what this looks like, because I do feel like I'm at the end of a timeline. I've run a course.
Yep.
I'm getting all the validations that course is ending. It's funny because the book that I'm working on right now, I've been calling The Pivot. About this conscious pivot.
Yes.
How to do it, consciously, because going through it when it gets forced upon you is not fun. And that's happening just by the nature of natural disasters. It's happening. There's a lot of forced disruption right now.
Yep.
By the grace of God, I go. I'm hoping to choose the gentle path of conscious dismantlement
Yes.
and restructure to go through in order to navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to do it with, you do it with careful steps. You do it with paying attention to your numbers, what your responsibilities are. You're holding up with vision, what's the highest expression. And then rewriting your story. I think it's about also rewriting your story and having the courage to let go of self-identity. I think that the ego and self-identity are one of the most painful, at least for me. Self-identity is where my ego probably gets pinched the most. When I'm not being identified as who I think I should be identified, that 2-time Emmy-nominated producer or New York Times bestselling publisher, like if I'm not getting identified as that, having to let those places go, I think is part of what's going to happen. So I think I think as painful as this year has been, because I think it's a collective wrecking ball of disruption has come through, we're going through the alchemical process of, as a group now, doing, reconciling polarities of all sorts of polarities that have needed to come to a middle ground. And through that, there is going to be a restructuring. And astrologically speaking, isn't Saturn moving into Capricorn for the next 2 years?
Something like that.
Yeah, I think so. So I think even astrologically, we're going to be going through a restructuring.
That's a time of destruction, right?
Yeah,
a time of
destruction
things
and
falling apart.
restructuring. Exactly. And I don't think we're going to fix. We're not going to fix it at the source of it. We're going to have to we're going to be building around it. And I think that's what's going to be happening. Yeah, in the next couple of years. That's so maybe 10 years from now, when I sit down at this table with you, we'll see how right or wrong I was, or how good my advice and wisdom was.
That's awesome. Well, your advice and wisdom is always appreciated, and I've always seen you to be right on the nose. So thank you so much for being a guest. Yeah. I so love that you came all the way out here to actually sit down with us. I know it's a track for where you're coming from.
Wow. Right?
Wow. I get it. Absolutely. So I really appreciate you. Thank you very much. And for everybody listening, I'm challenging you guys to step into your greatness, to take that leap, to step out of your comfort zone and to be greater than you are now, because you are already greater than you are. It's just a matter of revealing it. And to all my women out there, I adore you. Let's actually keep this change going. Let's keep standing in your strength. Let's keep making the world a better place. All right? So boom chakalaka, we are out. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.